Hello, everybody, and welcome to our third running of our Return to School Facebook Live broadcast. I am your host, Nathan Paul, and I'm the digital marketing assistant here at Portsmouth Christian Academy. So today we've got a lot of stuff to get to. Thanks for tuning in. So today we're going to talk about 3 or 4 EHL scenarios within enhanced hybrid learning. So we're going to talk about what it looks like if we have a confirmed case of COVID in the school, what it looks like if a kid is just sick, and so on and so forth. So today we're going to be speaking with our head of school, Mr. Mike Runey, as well as our lower and upper school principals in Dr. Carrie Abood and Jordan Heckelman. So I will go ahead and bring them into the show.
There's Jordan.
All right. How are we doing, everybody?
Hey, we're good, Nate. Thanks.
All right. So first, I guess we'll go ahead and jump right into it if you guys would like. Since we do have some, I'm sure, prospective families that haven't seen you guys before, if you guys could go ahead and introduce yourselves, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike Runey. I'm the head of school here at Portsmouth Christian Academy.
Hi guys, I'm Dr. Carrie Abood. I'm the lower school principal, which means that I get to work with students in grades kindergarten through 8th grade, and then I support our preschool program.
Welcome everyone. My name is Jordan Heckelman, and I am the upper school principal at PCA, and I have the privilege of working with our 9th through 12th grade families. I'm excited to join you all today and hope you learn a lot as a result of this Facebook Live event.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. So, Mike, if you want to go ahead and jump right into the introduction of what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, so we've been hard at work getting ready for the return to school here, really on 31 August for our new families, and then 1 September for all of our students back on campus. How do we do that safely and responsibly? And obviously still in person with as many students as possible. And so what we want to take you through today are some work we've done in the last 2 weeks in particular that I think will give you a story through we call four students and their experiences and what this might look like for your family. And really the goal here is to, again, maintain that safety while we continue education. And as for you as a family, how you would respond if your child or another child were in some type of situation like this. No scenario is perfect. There are exceptions to all of these, but I think these will give you some broad outlines about how we would go into the school year and how we'd handle this to take care of your family if there was a sickness in your situation, continue education, and also take care of the rest of the families. So those are my opening comments, and I'd hand it over to our great principals, Carrie and Jordan, if you got anything you want to add going in.
Sure, I'll add one quick thing to all of our families, something to be on the lookout for. Both Mr. Heckelman and myself will be emailing our currently enrolled families some information today, this evening. So it's going to include your quick reference guide, For those of you in the lower school, homeroom letters from the teachers are going out today, and so you'll be receiving those in the mail in the next few days. We also have created for you a health and safety guide that we are calling our back to school guide. So I'll show you what it kind of looks like on the outside. That will be a digital communication that will go out to you, and it really covers a lot of what we've been talking about, everything we've been talking about this summer in preparation for welcoming you back safely. And so, yeah, so there's also going to be information on open house and new health and safety protocols so that we can have our community come back on August 31st safely for open house for kindergarten through 8th grade. Mr. Heckelman?
Excellent, thank you. In addition to this, we are also at the upper school, lower school, and at PCAP going to be sending out some information for some student town hall events. At this point, we've mostly been taking time to communicate with parents, but as principals and as our PCAP director, we want to take some time to engage with our students. So you can expect to receive some information coming out, hopefully within the next day or two, that will contain an invitation to a scheduled student town hall where your students will have the opportunity to engage with us as principals and hopefully start to get excited about our school year. And we're really looking forward to that. I think I can speak for Dr. Aboud in saying that we miss seeing our students and are excited to have the opportunity to connect with them again in the near future.
Great. So Nate, I think we're ready to go through, basically outline 4 basic scenarios. We call them scenario A, B, C, and D. And we've given them basically what could be children's names just to help us think through this. So Abby Adams is our first scenario. She's a PCAP student. Imagine that. And so she's home at night in the evening after school day, and she's not feeling well. So and mom and dad, look at their daughter. They know their daughter well, and they go, she's got a cough and she has a low-grade fever, right? And it touches over 100 degrees. And so what do we do? So we have a screening tool that the parents would do, and it would be on their phone. And in fact, we just got it today. And they would go on their phone and they would screen and let us know that, hey, Abby's not feeling well and she's going to be off site tomorrow, right? Because she doesn't meet the screening criteria for coming to school. The other thing we're going to ask to do is, would the parents notify the next morning or send an email to the office and let us know that as well. So it's just a two-way communication. And then clearly we're going to encourage what the family already knows is to keep Abby at home, monitor the situation. We recommend that you notify your primary care manager. And then if you're concerned, there are ways to reach out to the state, especially if the situation goes to the point that it looks like there's a confirmed case of COVID. As Abby is feeling able, and again, PCAP will have ability to connect with their classmates or with their teachers. We recommend that we go off-site with Abby. We'll certainly be ready to do that. And then we'll proceed. So then what happens is there's no confirmation of COVID, and you can see, how do we bring Abby back to campus and to school? And so you can see this criteria. This will be laid out in the back to school guide. If for some reason she has a confirmed case of COVID, then these are the things that we ask you to do. And we're going to talk about a little bit more deeper scenario on a confirmed case of COVID, but we want to give you a feel that this is what we think is going to happen for the vast majority of our students. They're going to have some form of symptoms. We're going to ask them to, stay back, go off-site until we can really do that third block. Is that there's a negative test and they're symptom-free or they're explainable symptoms and they're feeling better. You've talked to your primary care manager and ready to come back on campus. So that's Abby Adams. So I'm going to turn over to Carrie Aboud and Jordan Heckelman. Anything you guys want to add on Abby's scenario? So Jordan and Carrie, anything you want to add on Abby?
The only thing I would add right now, and this really goes for all the scenarios, something that, we are talking about this with the families, with you all right now about scenarios. This will also be a really big piece of our in-service onboarding for all of our faculty and staff so that they understand these scenarios And that plays in a lot to, I believe, the next scenario you're going to talk about, Mike, where it's something that may occur during the school day, so that not just leadership, not just Mrs. Wyman, our school nurse, but everybody on staff has an idea of the plan and the protocol and the steps to take to make sure that we work safely in our building.
Yep. Jordan?
Yeah, absolutely. And additionally, on top of that training from our faculty and staff, a conversation that we're going to be having with our faculty and staff and also with our students is, what does it look like in light of all of these scenarios and situations, and especially in this year in general? What does it look like for us to love our neighbors well? And what does it look like to be a caring and compassionate community, especially during this time where it can be very easy to be stressed or to worry given the current situation with COVID? And in light of all of this, what I hope you understand as we talk through these scenarios is that we're looking at this through a lens of wanting to keep our faculty and staff, our students, and our families safe, while also allowing them to have an excellent education. And that's why we have these structures and procedures established.
All right, let's go on to the next scenario. Thank you both. That was very helpful. So the next scenario is we call Ben Bergeron. And so Ben's situation is that he's in school. Let's just say he's in the third grade, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning. And so Ben is not feeling well, right? As that will happen. It happens regularly at school. So Ben will talk to his teacher, or the teacher notices. And so the teacher will notify the nurse, and then we have a mechanism inside the school that she doesn't have to leave the classroom to make that connection. Describe the symptoms to our nurse. The nurse will move to the classroom. We'll do an initial assessment. She'll have some PPE on. And basically, the nurse will decide what to do. So we work on site, but more than likely, we're going to move to an isolation room. What's important is that we have 4 isolation rooms in the school. At the lower school, we have 5. So PCAP has one, and then we have one for the K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and then we have one at the high school. And so move to isolation room, notify Ben's parents, coordinate the pickup. Obviously, Ben will be taken care of, monitored while he's there. The nurse will talk to the parents, recommend medical steps from our perspective. And then, of course, the nurse is going to update the principal and notify the teacher of what's going on. One of the things we'll do sort of right after Ben goes is we're going to disinfect the classroom. So I call it recess, but basically we'll find a reason to clear the classroom, move it either outside or to another space in the school for about 15 minutes. The facilities team will come, we'll have some PPE, but we have a way to disinfect the classroom in less than 15 minutes so that we can be confident to bring students back into the classroom. So basically it's a hydrostatic gun. It's a disinfectant that has been confirmed to kill COVID. And then we'll come back in, we'll do a quick assessment of the students. And then again, if everybody's feeling good at that point, we'll return to class and we'll monitor them. I think the key part, here's the last bullet, is maintaining communication. And so we expect Ben's parents will follow up with us. How's Ben doing? We'll also follow up, especially if there's a confirmed case, we expect the parents to call us, what's going on. And then as that happens, just the protocol is between the primary care manager, the state of New Hampshire's, public health officials are notified, so contact tracing can start to occur, and we'll cooperate as a team as we go forward. But notice that the way this scenario develops for Ben, this is a potential, not a confirmed case. And so for potential cases, we're not going to shut everything down. And it's important that you know that that's our position, that there are a lot of sicknesses that go around with young people. And based on what we're seeing at this level, there's not a requirement to close the school down and go off-site at any level. So as soon as we start to move to confirmed cases, which is where we're going to go next, then we have to start making some decisions. So back over to Carrie and Jordan. Any comments, team, you want to add?
I don't think I have anything to add, Mike, on that scenario other than, praise God for lots of space and places to move as we need to flex during the school day.
Yep. What does that look, Jordan? What does that look like at the upper school? Because it's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So at the upper school, we have very similar procedures, but we have the opportunity that if a student does not to feel, well, we have a space that students or families can flex to either continue with the class or to get outside and to space out for a little bit while the room is being disinfected. That being said, with all of this, one great advantage that we have by shifting to our enhanced hybrid model is if a student were to not start feeling well and did need to go home, if they started to feel better later in the day and they felt like they were up to engaging with their classes, they would still be able to connect remotely. And even if a student in the morning, and this is a little outside of the scenario that we're talking about now, but if a student isn't necessarily feeling up to 100%, they're a little bit concerned, they can still engage in a full school day because they can connect remotely so long as they've communicated with their teachers. And that's a significant advantage that we have, and I believe will help keep our faculty and staff and students safe.
No, I agree. Good points, both of you. Hey, let's go to scenario C. So we call this Charlie Chaplin. And so in Charlie's case, this becomes a confirmed case of COVID in the school. And so really what we think we're going to see here is that the parents are going to know first because they've run the test, they're going to get notified. And let's just say Charlie's in the 10th grade. And so what we'd expect the family to do, the PCM is going to either direct Charlie's parents to talk to the state of New Hampshire, but that contact needs to be made, again, to enable contact tracing in a way that protects the identity of the family, but also alerts the right people that, so we can prevent the continued spread of the disease. The other thing we really ask is the parents to notify the PCA nurse or a school official, but the nurse is really the key piece because, as you know, the nurse has all of that health information and also has the mechanisms right at hand to protect that health information. And so we'll notify the leadership, the nurse then will notify the leadership as we need to. And we've worked through a couple of those drills. What does that look like? So whoever the first PCA staff gets notified by Charlie's parents, again, ideally the nurse, but it could be someone else, is bring in the principal and the nurse as soon as possible. And the most likely piece is that Charlie will be off campus when this happens. And so what we need to do is then working with the state is what's the contact with other teachers and students for the last day, 2 days, 3 days. And again, we'll get some guidance on what that looks like. But what we're trying to determine is where has there been close contact? Close contact is defined right now by 6 feet, inside of 6 feet of space for more than 15 minutes without a mask. So that's how we're defining it. And so we'll clearly have an idea what that looks like because our classrooms are set up to be 6 feet apart. When you're inside of 6 feet and you're rotating, you can't maintain that distance as you mask up, especially for the older students. And so we're confident is that going in is that we've already minimized the potential for Charlie to have spread. We're not saying it's nothing, but we'll certainly know that our going in position is that this is minimized. But it is possible that, the test comes in, Charlie's actually feeling good, but for some reason the family wanted a test. Charlie's at school. And how do we move to that? So that's what that right in the center of the chart, we move the student to isolation. Again, with dignity and respect, not alarm. We just, we just need to pull them out. Hey, we need to talk to you. And then again, we'll have appropriate PPE when inside of 6 feet. Again, we'll disinfect the classroom that the student is in. I think this is where we start to have to take action during the school day, is that we'll contact the New Hampshire DHS contact tracing team, and we're going to get immediate guidance. And then we have to decide probably within the day, certainly by the next day, of what we need to do as far as moving off-site, right? And so we may have to move certain students and request that you go off-site based on contact. For example, let's say Charlie played on a soccer team, and there's potential for that contact. We would notify some of the parents here that there's been contact on the soccer team. Again, working to protect, Charlie's family's, privacy here as much as possible, so the parents can make a decision too, whether or not to pull their students off. But we certainly would possibly could restrict access to campus for some students for some period of time. And our goal would be obviously to find the right number of students to do that with. Not too small, but we don't have to shut the whole school down. Let's make a right decision. And then we would certainly inform you if there's a confirmed case in the school and basically what segment of the school it's in. Again, trying to protect the privacy of the family, but also giving you as parents enough information to know, maybe I want to stay off site, or actually I'm comfortable, and I'm going to allow my family to continue on site. And then so at the school, we'll prepare, we call it level 4 is like mostly off, almost everybody is off site, right? And so we'll prepare for some level, we call it level 4 off site for some period of time. Our goal is to minimize that time, but I think realistically, we're expecting that could be 3 days. At the far extreme, it's going to be about 21 calendar days, about three school weeks would be the far side of that if we had a larger outbreak. But I think Charlie's case is the one that garners the most attention appropriately, because here we have a confirmed case. We're not just symptomatic. So over to Carrie and Jordan. Anything you guys want to add?
Yes, one thing I will add, and this is kind of on the behalf of our school nurse, Mrs. Wyman, we're happy that the state of New Hampshire has actually just hired a school nurse liaison for all schools. And so Mrs. Wyman, myself, we will have access every day to a state official whose entire job is to support schools in understanding what we need to communicate, what are the concerns we have, and help play through some of these scenarios specific to Charlie Chaplin and how we're going to work on that. So I know that there's an additional layer of support that we are anticipating having to help you, to help your family.
And I think another thing that I'll add, looking at Charlie's scenario, if let's say that he had a test and was feeling well, but ended up coming back to school and is present, we would obviously follow our procedures for disinfecting classrooms if he did have to be isolated and pulled from that scenario. But at the upper school specifically, the way that we've structured our transitions and we've arranged our classroom, students should not be within 6 feet for longer than 15 minutes, really at any point during the day. So that minimizes that close contact. So that gives us a level of comfort at the upper school, working through the different classrooms and also relying on the procedures that we have for movement during the day to ensure that students aren't potentially transmitting COVID between each other.
Great. Good points, both of you. We have one more scenario. This is one we actually have been talking around, but I think several of the families have been asking, and it really has to do with travel. And so we have Donna Dobbins. She's a PCA student. This could be anywhere. Let's just say Donna's mom travels out of New England on a family trip or a business trip and returns. And the question we're getting is, what about Donna? Can Donna come back to school? And so if Donna's mom had no confirmed exposure, and Donna's parents or Donna can answer the screening criteria for Donna positively, in the sense that she can get all the, come back on campus, Donna can return. And so, but knowing that under current state New Hampshire guidelines, and I think Maine and Massachusetts are similar, is that Donna's parent needs to stay isolated, and that's outside of the purview of the school. But if Donna can, answer those questions, then Donna can come back. But let's say Donna's dad travels for business or pleasure outside of New England, and probably even if Donna's parent has confirmed exposure, right, as defined by the medical authorities. If the parent can maintain isolation from Donna in this case, and the student continue to pass all screening criteria, the student can continue on campus. We recognize some families have situations where they can, one of the parents or family member suspicious and then confirms that they've been exposed. They already go into isolation and they minimize that by definition, close contact and intimate contact inside of a family. We also recognize some families can't do that. And so, again, good communication with the school. But one of the things we're trying to be clear here is that, again, this notion of close contact is important, and again, enabling the student to engage on campus or off campus, ideally on campus is our goal. There may be some cases where the student travels outside of New England, and that could happen for any number of reasons. So here's where it gets a little stickier for the student. Current government statements are that you cannot return must remain off-site and isolate for 14 days before you come back on campus. I think another approach that we're taking is if the student travels off campus or out of New England and comes back, a negative test result without symptoms enables them to come back on campus. And so those are the two ways that we see when we get travel right now outside of New England. That's what we're currently seeing as far as government guidelines. As those change, we'll update and communicate them to you. I think you need to stay tuned in as well. If you have questions, please contact us. But I think the travel situation is one that we're seeing more and more. And I'll hand it over to Carrie and Jordan if they have anything they want to add.
So I will just add one quick response because I feel like I want to answer this one quickly and positively. One of the comments from Cassie about if a child needs to be in isolation, will they have an adult with them or a support? And the answer is absolutely yes. So I just want to make sure that is super clear for everybody to hear. If there's a time when any child from youngest to oldest needs to be isolated, they would not be left alone.
Yeah, thanks for addressing that, Cassie. Thanks for asking.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
go ahead, Jordan.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I would add to this travel situation is we recognize that for families, sometimes travel is necessary, whether it's for work or for family matters. And we want to work with all of our families to ensure that even if travel does need to occur for some reason or there is close contact, that your student is still going to be able to be involved in class if they do need to quarantine or isolate. It's not that they are not engaged in their class for 14 days if for some reason they had to travel outside of New England. It's that they're engaged with their class at home using the technology and systems that we have in place for remote learning. So that's, I think, something that is key to identify here. You don't have to worry about traveling and then your student not being able to connect with their classmates and with their teacher and falling behind.
That's a great point, Jordan. I think the other one that may or may not be clear is that we plan on having, school on a regular school week. It's 5 days a week live, and that those classes, your child can connect with his or her teacher, his classmates, off-site, live. If they can't, for example, you have to go take a test, right? A COVID test. That will also be available to your child so that he or she can catch up, reconnect, certainly within the next 24 hours. So I think Jordan's point is a really good one. Our goal is to maintain relationship, maintain engagement, maintain support for your child, for your family. So anything else you want to add, Carrie? Here? I think we're good. So do we have any questions? I want to make sure that we move Nate to our community, what they're asking.
Absolutely. So everybody, we really hope that Abby, Ben, Charlie, and Donna's scenarios have kind of clarified some questions that you guys might have about what different forms of contamination within EHL will look like this upcoming year. But in case they didn't answer some of your questions, we're open right now. So I'm seeing that quite a few guys have submitted your comments down below. So we'll go ahead and get to those now. We'll go ahead and start. Sandy asks, in the Ben scenario, would you email parents? She thinks that parents should make the decision on whether students should stay at school or go home.
So this is the case of Ben Bergeron, who has symptoms, but there's no confirmed exposure to COVID, correct?
Correct.
Yep, that's what he. So I think in the case, I'll speak for Ben's parents. So Ben's parents will clearly be called. We'll contact them. That's what we've done in the past. That's what we'll do now. But I think the question is, will the other families know that Ben was not feeling well, right? So he had an upset stomach that day. Our thought at this point is no, because Ben's parents should continue to monitor the situation and update us. As Ben's situation worse, hopefully it doesn't, but if it does, gets worse, then we continue to monitor and we're aware of that. I think what we're saying is if there's a confirmed exposure or confirmed case, that's the level that we plan on notifying you of what's going on. If there's a broad outbreak of the, foot, hand, mouth, flu or those, we clearly start to, when things start to spread quickly, then we start, regardless of what it is, then we notify families. Carrie, anything you want to add to this?
No, I think that's answered perfectly. You know, there are times within any given school year where we need to notify families about a spread of any type of virus, whether that be flu or strep throat. And we also are going under the assumption or the plan right now that the spread of the virus in New Hampshire is low. So with that being the case, I think, Mr. Runey, your answer is spot on as far as how and when we would communicate.
Yeah, we had this, just to add one more layer to this, we had a talk through one of the scenarios yesterday or Monday on our all hands, that if the situation in New England starts to change back to where it was in April, then our whole posture of the school will adapt, right? We're looking at the environment. We'll clearly communicate with you. The way we're going to communicate is we're going to say what operational level the school's operating at. We're going to start at level 1, which is basically bring everybody on campus who wants to be here. We can make it safe. If the situation gets worse, then we'll start to move to level 2, level 3, which is our way of telling you, hey, this is what we're seeing in the community, and then what steps are we going to modify inside the school to make sure that we maintain safety. And then at some point, do we need to go off site? Or if you're a parent and you go, I'm more comfortable, I can bring my student home and be off site. So we have a mechanism, you'll see in the return guide, that talks about what operational level based on the environment and what steps we're taking inside the school. So a great question.
Mm-hmm. So we'll go ahead and move to our next question here from Nicole, who asked about cases with siblings. So with siblings in different houses where there's a quarantine in one class or in one house, are all the siblings going to be asked to remain home, or is there a specific plan in place for dividing those siblings up?
Yeah, so very broadly, this, again, back to communication being key here, is that we would ask that you, so the bottom line answer is we'll have to figure it out. And so we're going to look inside of the situation. And if the family is looking and screening and doing all the assessment across siblings, again, let's just assume we go back to, I think, one of the earliest scenarios of Abby or Ben, right? So they're symptomatic, but they're not COVID, no test at this point. This is where families in the past have typically used their judgment to go, hey, I have 2 children who are not symptomatic. I have 1. I'm already starting to isolate a bit at home. You have the option, mom and dad, to go, hey, I'm going to hold them back. But every day, you're filling out a screening for all 3 children, right? And you're saying, I got 1 who's symptomatic, I got 2 who are not. And what we're saying is at this point, if you're not symptomatic, then you can come. Once you become a confirmed case, then we'd still go back and ask back on the contact tracing and the exposure. That risk profile will probably look different. And we'd certainly talk to you about that. But there's a likelihood at that point you're going to probably want to keep your kids off site until we can get further identification of how your kids are doing. So that's my thought on this. Jordan or Carrie, what do you think?
No,
I think Carrie, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think, Nicole, the bottom line is it kind of depends. Depends on the scenario and the situation.
Mm-hmm. And just to add with that, in all of these scenarios, one thing that's going to serve as a constant is communication between PCA and families. And we hope that we can continue to foster that partnership. So if we do end up in a situation like what Ben Bergeron is going through, we can be in communication and determine the best plan of action.
I think and absolutely. The reason I think we can do this is that every morning when the teacher comes in, the students come in, that classroom has been disinfected, right? All the chairs, all the surfaces, all the doorknobs, every single day, which is why the screening is so important. And basically we get a redo. So we've invested in that this year. And so that's not a foolproof, but I think that gives us a high level of confidence that we can have adaptability with you. The second key point is, parents, we want you to be comfortable, right? And so I think we're trying to be upfront with you about what we are going to communicate and what we're going to do, and hopefully that paints a picture. But I think we're good.
All right, thank you guys. So we'll move on to our next question from Steven. which says, what's the disinfection process like? Is it an entire house or is it just one room? And that's for the lower school, I'm assuming. And then for the upper school, how does the disinfection process look like up there?
Yep. So I'll cover for the whole school, and I'll let the principals talk specifically. But every night there'll be a disinfection of every classroom or where we teach in the school. So that's one. The second is that each teacher will have a student and teacher safe cleaner disinfectant available to him or her that they can, for lunchtime or whatever, spray down the tables, the desks, before and after, or whenever the teacher feels like they would like to do that. So that's available. Cleaning works instantly. Disinfecting, it takes up to 10 minutes of sitting, but the teacher has that available. Again, child safe, teacher safe, and we're really glad to have that option. What we're describing here is a third further. If we just think, hey, look, there's a situation, we're just going to disinfect. It is a material that we have that actually would be used typically at night. We're just going to come in, clear the room, disinfect it with that spray that we do every night with a confidence level that after 15 minutes that room has been disinfected. So I just want to give you a feel of the disinfection that we have readily available in the program every day. So Carrie and Jordan, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would just add that we would err on the side of caution, and there's no straight up rule that it's just going to be one room. It would be the rooms that we think are most appropriate for disinfecting. So if that child had been in a different classroom for math earlier in the day, we're going to disinfect that room as well. Jordan?
Yep, and the same applies for the upper school. And obviously it depends on the situation as well, because the student could be displaying a symptom that is not associated with COVID and is going home for that reason. So once again, it kind of comes back to, well, it kind of depends on each situation and scenario. And the procedures we have in place give us guidance that we can have a clear structure and format to respond to each scenario in a way that is safe and ensures the safety of our families and students.
Yeah, I think, Stephen, one of the things, the principals, I think, hit it really well. We'll always move to the side of safety. We have capability within the school day to respond at small scale and really medium scale quickly within minutes. And that we have protocols that will guide us to the particulars of the situation so we can adapt quickly. So that's how we're thinking about it. And, I think that we have a good way forward.
And we also have other procedures, especially at the upper school, for transitions and moving between classes, masking when moving, hand sanitizing in and out of classes, 6 feet of distance between desks. That provides a further buffer at the upper school, especially with all of those transitions. And we can clean desks at the end of each class as well.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next question then, which has to deal with faculty and staff screening. I think Ann is just confirming that we are going to ask our staff and faculty to screen themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's the start point of every day, that our staff and faculty are healthy and ready to meet and teach and engage with your children.
Okay, so then kind of along the same lines with what Ann's question is, Nancy asks, how do these scenarios work if teachers are sick or, if we have a substitute come in? If we can kind of go into that a little bit.
Yeah, so broadly, the system we've set up would enable a teacher who's not meeting the screening criteria to do one of two things. One is that he or she could teach from home, and then we would bring into the classroom another staff member who is screened, as healthy and able to supervise the class, while the teacher who's prepped for the day, still feeling well, but maybe not able to screen in cleanly, could basically lead the class that he or she planned in conjunction with the adult in the room. The other option is the teacher's not feeling well enough, and so cannot do that or has a doctor's appointment. Is that we would have basically a substitute available who's ready to come in and handle that class, because that sub is working with the teaching team that knows how this grade operates.
And
So,
can I speak to that just a little?
yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to say, one of the things we're doing in anticipation of that is where we are supporting our homeroom teachers by hiring a few additional lower school teaching aides. So these are people who are going to be familiar with your children, familiar with the culture of our school, so that they can more easily step in and support the day-to-day processes when something like that happens. Now, I will go ahead and say there's always a need for more substitute teachers out there. So, Anne, if you have somebody in mind that you want to send my way, my email. You can just let me know.
Yeah, I would reinforce that I think we're seeing that at multiple levels. That men and women who could be some of you who'd like to contribute, especially this year. You have a heart for teaching children. You have some background in it. Please come up on the net or put us in contact.
All right, so I think then we'll move on to the last couple of questions that I'm seeing here, and they all kind of have to do with the same subject of before school starts, if families are moving out of state, and we kind of already covered this in the travel situation, but I think some people might have joined on a little bit later. But so we have Carla who asks, her family will be traveling outside New England from August 15th to the 22nd, and if her family presents no symptoms from there on, and she's tested for COVID, and if she's negative, will she be allowed back in school on September 1st? And then the next question is, are we asking families to quarantine from travel outside of New England for 14 days? So I think if we can just kind of talk about how families can think about travel between now and September and how that might affect, when they start with us.
Yeah, Nate, it's a great question. And frankly, I wish it were a lot cleaner and simpler. But the bottom line is that, yes, you need to plan to quarantine or test when you come back from school. And really, that's to give confidence to the rest of the families who are here that we're not really spreading this across regions. And so our recommendation, or my personal recommendation, is talk to your PCM before you travel. When you come back, I just talked to a PCA dad who traveled in the last week, arrived back on Saturday night, talked to the PCM on Monday, came in, got a test. We'll have it today, and then he will be clear to come. Is that foolproof? Absolutely not. But it's a measure that we can take with increased confidence that we are meeting the criteria so that we can continue to engage in community. Again, that person remains asymptomatic and did not think that he or she was exposed, had confirmed exposure while traveling. So, I think that's going to be the vast majority of our families as I've talked to them. We know right now that a lot of our PCA alums and family members are going back to college or going to college for the first time, and a lot of families are taking them down there. And so the short answer is we acknowledge that, we affirm that. We also know that we have to be ready to talk to all 350 families at PCA and go, this is how we're all starting on a level playing field. And so I think we're trying to provide options back to the families about either isolation and go offsite, just keep communication with us. And we'll certainly integrate and bring you on. That's our goal. You won't be left behind. The other option you have is to coordinate with your PCM and get a test, get cleared, and come back on. So anything, principals, you want to add?
I'll just add that same procedure and protocol is what we're asking our faculty and staff to do as well.
Yep.
Okay, so Samantha asked, just to clarify, if parents travel for work, can the kids be at school or not until the parent tests negative?
That Debbie, what was it? Debbie Dobbins?
Debbie Dobbins.
Debbie Dobbins.
So great question. So parents, if you're asymptomatic, you didn't have close contact, confirmed exposure, right? Your child can pass screening. They can come back. Once you start to go, symptomatic, if you do, then you're still looking at screening. And I think, as you know, there's increased risk, but our goal is to really use the screening criteria and also the definition of confirmed close contact or confirmed exposure, right? And so I think that those are the key principles. If you have questions, contact us. But I'd say if you've traveled, you're asymptomatic, and you do not have confirmed close contact, confirmed exposure is the key, then your child is welcome back on campus, meeting all the screening criteria. That's
All
a
right.
great question.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
it looks like we've answered everybody's questions in the chat here. So I'll go ahead and wrap us up. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys, watching these live broadcasts. We're doing this because we want to be transparent with all the families in the PCA community. And we want you guys to feel safe about what PCA is doing. And again, we really appreciate you guys tuning in. So is there anything left you guys want to say?
I'll go to the principals first. I'll close out.
I just want to say, at least to all of our families, thank you for your continued partnership and tuning into this, and for the support that you've given us during this unique season. And I hope that throughout this year, we can all lean towards being open and communicating with one another, and also being agile and flexible given the situation. But I really look forward to our continued partnership, and words cannot express how excited I am to have students back on campus.
Yeah, same here. There's a lot of excitement in this building. We are almost finished moving classrooms and preparing for the house model at the lower school. And it just feels so wonderful to start to establish patterns and be prepared for your families to come back. I will say lower school families in particular, when you get that quick reference guide in the mail, please take a minute to look at it a little more carefully. There are some things that are changing specific to this school year. And so I won't spend time going through it, but if you've been here for 5 or 6 years and you haven't looked at that quick reference guide in a while, let's look at it, and then reach out to me or to Mrs. Corso with any questions.
And same for the upper school quick reference guide as well. We have made a few changes.
That's great. Thank you both.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks ago was the last time we did this. We were about to embark on our prom. So I don't know if you know, but we held prom here at the Portsmouth Country Club. It was a wonderful event. It was a masquerade of a different kind. And so proud of our staff, faculty, parents, and students who made that a reality. We had about 60 students, and that was a really good event. Again, is an example of what we can do, taking all the similar protocols in place. We're about to finish up a full summer camp, summer here this Friday. Learned a lot. Our athletic teams are back, and we're practicing all of these things that we're doing to include communication. And so I just want you to know that, and what basis or what confidence level do we have? So we're confident where we're starting, but I think the team mentioned the two things is and agree to what we're going to do, and there's good communication with the school, you, and with other families. That's going to be the key to all of this, and you have our commitment to do that. So thank you again. God bless you as you go. We'll have our next Facebook Live event in 2 weeks. And I'll give you basically a go, no-go as we head into this school. I think we did a review today with another staff meeting, and everything's on track. A lot of moving pieces, though. So we'll keep you up to date. We keep you in prayers. Please pray for us. Thanks, Nate.
PCA is coming back. Back to our campus, back to our classrooms, and back to the in-person relationships that make us special. Back to the fields, back to the court, and back to maximizing each child's God-given potential. For more information on how PCA will return to campus this fall, visit pcaschool.org.